You know that feeling, right? You're in the middle of a sentence, your brain is racing ahead, but your mouth just glitches. It can't keep up. Well, it turns out that's not your brain failing you. It's physics. Okay, let's dive into the hidden physics of fluency.
Yeah, we've all been there. That moment you trip over your own tongue. It's one of those things that's super frustrating in the moment, but kind of funny later. But what if I told you that little trip up actually tells us something really deep about how we speak? And more importantly, how we fail at speaking. And this right here, this is the core of what we're talking about today. When we stumble over our words, it's like our hardware crashes. It's a physical thing, a total collapse of motor control. But when an AI gets tongue-tied, well, it doesn't have a tongue. Its failure is something else entirely. It's a software crash, a complete collapse of meaning. Okay, so first up, let's talk about us, the human side of the equation. What is this invisible wall we keep running into when we talk, and why do we stumble? Well, it all comes down to something called mouth memory. And yeah, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's muscle memory, but for talking. See, being fluent isn't just about what's in your brain. It's about the incredibly fast subconscious gymnastics your tongue, lips, and vocal cords are doing all the time. And a tongue twister? That's basically an Olympic-level routine designed to push that whole system right to its breaking point. And this gets us to the really cool part, the physics of it all. The problem isn't your vocabulary, it's literally physics. The difficulty of a phrase comes down to something linguists call articulatory distance. It's all about how far your tongue has to travel between sounds. Think about it, going from an S sound like in C to an sh sound like in shells. Your tongue only has to move back a couple of millimeters. But when you're talking fast, that tiny little gap can feel like a giant canyon, and that's when you fumble. All right, so that's us humans. It's a fascinating, purely mechanical failure. But now let's pivot to the world of AI, because this is where things get really interesting. I mean, an AI doesn't have a tongue, right? It has no muscles, it never gets tired. So how in the world do you make a robot tongue-tied? The trick is to go after its biggest weakness. See, an AI doesn't hear sounds like you and I do. It reads text that's been chopped up into little pieces called tokens. It's basically processing the idea of a sound, not the sound itself. So what's its kryptonite? Any language where the written word is, well, a bit shifty, where the letters on the page don't give you a clear map to the sounds you're supposed to make. And that's where you can set some absolutely wicked traps for it. Let's look at a classic example, the famous lion-eating poet poem in Mandarin. Every single syllable in this thing is pronounced she. The only thing that changes the meaning is the tone. A human speaker can figure this out from context, but an AI? It doesn't have that context. It just sees she over and over. And what comes out is this completely flat, robotic monotone that is just meaningless. It's a total collapse of meaning right there. Or how about this one, Georgian? This language is famous for what I can only describe as terrifying stocks of consonants. You get words like gvapritskvuni, that's 8 consonants in a row with no vowel in sight. So you take your standard text-to-speech AI, which has mostly been trained on languages that, nicely alternate between vowels and consonants, and it just freaks out. It starts making things up, hallucinating these little phantom vowels, sticking sounds in where they don't belong, just to try and make it pronounceable. The result? A complete mess. It just butchers the language. Okay, so now we know the weaknesses, right? We know what breaks humans, and we know what breaks AI. This means we can stop just looking for tongue twisters in the wild, and we can start engineering them. We're not just writing sentences anymore. Think of it more like we're compiling phonetic code, designed to create the absolute perfect trap. And this is done with a really clever process, a kind of 4-step recipe called the Twister-Lister pipeline. So here's how it works. Step 1. The system digs through a dictionary and pulls out words that sound almost identical. The perfect ingredients for a nasty tongue twister. Step 2. To make sure it's not just nonsense, it anchors those words to a topic, like cooking or space. Step 3. It feeds that very specific, very tricky list of words to a big language model and says, okay, build me a real sentence out of this. And finally, step 4, which is super important, is quality control. It double-checks the output and throws out any grammatical weirdness, so you're left with a tongue twister that's not only hard to say, but actually makes sense. So you might be wondering, how does a computer hear that words sound alike? Well, the secret sauce is this really neat metric called phonemic edit distance, or PED for short. What it does is it mathematically calculates let's call it the twistiness of a phrase. It measures the absolute minimum number of tiny sound changes you need to make to get from one word to the next. So a really low PED score, that means the words are practically phonetic twins, making them incredibly hard for us to tell apart and say out loud at any kind of speed. Now, all this technical stuff is really cool, for sure, but here's where it pivots and becomes something genuinely useful for, well, all of us. Because this technology, it isn't just about breaking robots for fun. It's about building better human speakers. Just imagine this for a second. What if you had a twister of the day that was generated just for you? A system that could figure out your personal speech weak spots. Maybe you have trouble with rolling your R's, or maybe the TH sound gets you every time. And it could create these little micro drills to help. We're not talking about a party game anymore. This is like targeted physical therapy for your voice. And the benefits here are totally real, and you can actually measure them. Let's say you're someone who always mixes up your S's and sh sounds. The system could spit out a drill like, she sells stylish seashells she surely shouldn't share. If you practice with these custom-built drills regularly, you can seriously boost your enunciation, you can help correct speech impediments, and, maybe most importantly, you can build a ton of confidence for public speaking. It even helps train your verbal working memory. I mean, after you master a few of those, giving a regular old presentation is going to feel like a total walk in the park. So, the next time you find yourself stumbling over a word, don't get frustrated. Don't think of it as a failure. Think of it as a data point, a tiny piece of information that, with the right tools, we can actually use to diagnose those little physical glitches in your speech and then systematically train them away. Which leaves us with a pretty powerful final thought, doesn't it? What if your biggest weakness when it comes to speaking could actually become your strongest asset?